Welcome to the Constructive Conversations podcast, where we explore the world of private lending, real estate investing, and the leaders driving the industry forward. I'm Olivia Anthony, your host, and today you're tuning into part 2 of my conversation with Linda Hyde, president of AAPL, and Kat Hungerford, digital project manager and executive editor for AAPL. We're going to continue our conversation around the strategy, people, and purpose behind the American Association of Private Lenders. In part 1 of our conversation, which is currently available on YouTube, we discussed the origin of AAPL, their mission, and how it's evolved and continues to evolve to support the private lending space, the needs of those within the space, and the challenges we face as an industry. This includes lender impersonation, documentation fraud, lack of transparency, to name a few. And we learn about the proactive measures AAPL is taking to not only protect both lenders and borrowers, but to also ensure lenders are equipped for operational excellence in today's market and in an ever-changing environment. In today's episode, you'll continue to learn about the resources available and to come within the AAPL community and how this organization is shaping the landscape of private lending through collaboration, education, and advocacy. Whether it's technology advances or anticipated regulatory changes, or whether you're a local lender or a large national organization, AAPL is committed to serving its members and ensuring that every voice is heard. And as a bonus, in both episodes of this conversation, we get a rare and personal look inside AAPL from two voices that typically stay behind the scenes and let their work speak for itself, making this conversation all the more meaningful. And I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Now let's jump right in to part 2 of this conversation, and a big thank you again to Liquid Logics for being our sponsor. So can you tell me more about optics as one of the challenges you're seeing?
Sure. AAPL flipped the script almost a decade by starting the conversation with private lenders as a solution to affordable housing. So the conversation needs to continue and expand. We're really looking for, as we said, from a legislative perspective on how we speak about private lenders. So they were called hard money lenders, and we really had a campaign to talk about that. And that was led by some of our partners and our members, and changing the way that we talk about ourselves, but even presenting ourselves in front of the legislators, in front of some of the borrowers, and how we represent and support the community.
Because I think it's really easy in this conversation to forget that beyond the actual transaction, there's what that results in, right? Because that money is feeding a need and it's filling a gap. Because fix and flippers and buy and hold and the commercial side, there's not really an avenue for them among banks. They're always going to reach a cap where they can't go any further if they still need money or leverage to actually be able to do more deals. And then that money that's coming from private lenders, and I'm speaking to the choir here because everybody knows this already, but it's part of the conversation, right? We all know it's happening, but how we frame that conversation is what makes a difference for industry. So when you have derelict property or vacant property that is in so many of our communities across the United States, or where we talk about aging housing stock and having to do those renovations, your home buyer that ends up owning that property, they're not equipped to do a lot of that work. And let's be honest, a lot of people don't want to. Like, I feel like HGTV has its place, but it is not for everybody. And people are learning maybe this whole fixer-upper thing isn't something that I can personally accomplish, or they aren't able to secure a renovation loan to their bank to get that done. That money has to come from somewhere. And so our real estate investor borrowers are the ones that are making it happen, and they're able to execute it because of money from private lenders. So private lenders are directly feeding the affordable housing market. And then because all real estate is local, they're also feeding the local communities. So that money all goes through to contractors working on the jobs, to the local economies. It all goes through in what we like to call, and what's known as, velocity of money here. So I'm sorry, I'm nerding out on this because I'm passionate about it. But having that conversation and knowing it's happening and being able to have somebody who's normally on the other side of that conversation being like, lenders, oh, no, we don't want to talk to you at all. Having them actually lean in and be like, wait, you guys are actually fulfilling a need. It's why you exist. Nobody else is going to do this. Or if they are, it's going to be really hard. And when you can talk about that, I think that's powerful. And that's something that we're always working for lenders to take a step back from just the everyday operations of their business and be able to tell that story because it serves to help the entire industry. And that's what we're here for.
So that kind of leads us into the next topic. What are some of the biggest opportunities you see for lenders or the industry or AAPL in 2025?
I think data is our biggest, it's going to be our biggest, pause. Data is going to be our biggest opportunity, our biggest challenge. And it's no longer how we're going to get the data, because that was our biggest challenge a couple of years ago. And Kat can actually get into that. That is where she will actually nerd out because she really gets into the data aspect. But it is more of how people will start to use it, how they will use it to better their business and to change their business to fit what's going on. So I'll let her get more into that, because that is something that is really intriguing to her, and she really digs into that.
So when I first joined the association and had started having conversations with our members, a lot of questions we had over was how to benchmark the industry. So that seems like a really old conversation, but it really wasn't that long ago that we were having it. Like, how do I find out it's not 10 and 2 anymore. Everybody's doing something different. They're all running different things. The industry is moving. How do I know if I'm, in with that, or if I'm somehow outside of it? Like, my borrowers are still coming to me, but I don't know if that's because I'm drastically cheaper than everybody else and I should be raising my prices, or if there's some other secret sauce that I'm doing and don't even realize it. And so there's this huge need for data. And we were an association, and Zelman and Associates came to us, which is a data firm out of New York that does a lot of real estate, research. And we started working on this industry survey. That because of our neutral position in the industry, we were gonna have be able to partner with them to execute this survey. And then COVID happened, and Zelman found out that they had far bigger fires to put out on their side. But Linda and I, decided we were going to do it anyway, that we had a need for it, and nobody else was really running something like this from a truly impartial perspective, like really trying to find a way to bring this data together for the benefit of our membership in the industry. And so we ran that for about a year. And what we found in that process was everybody wants data, but they're all business owners. Most of them are small business owners. They don't have time to regularly sit in front of a computer and do reporting. Like, they already hate HMDA. They don't need to do the same thing for the association. Yeah. So, and by that time, though, we'd been having this conversation with a lot of our partners, and they were also hearing that same conversation from their clients, like data, how do we benchmark? And so we found that in working with our partners, there was this opportunity for them to find a way to extract the information they already had in their systems, but then pull that out for this kind of aggregate data reporting that the industry needed. And so a lot of your big companies, like your Forcasas, your Lightning Docs, I mean, they have their core business that they're doing, but then they also grew into the reporting side of things that came out of that.
Right.
And we've been lucky enough that since we've partnered with them, that they publish and bring their data to us. And so now we've got what feels like a different story going on. We have people going, this is an overwhelming amount of data. I've got information and statistics coming from every side of this, and I don't know what to do with it. How do I actually use this for my own business? How do I decision off of this? How do I know this even applies to me? Mm-hmm. Like, is this something I need to be looking at, or is something that only applies to this over here? How do I change my operations about just lots and lots of questions. And so it's kind of, that's where we find that that's one of our next big opportunities, is helping our members and helping the industry learn and educate themselves about decisioning off of this information now that they have it. Like, everybody is like, AI is the next thing. And I'm like, AI is not the next thing. You got to understand where you are first and how to use it before you can have analytics come in and tell you those next steps. So, and I'm going to get a lot of flack for that comment from a lot of our partners. But I really do believe that if private lenders understand how data impacts their businesses and how it impacts their operations, then they can take that next step into technology and taking advantage of a lot of the technology that's out of there, because they really understand how to navigate through and make those decisions in a more informed way. yeah, so that's my really passionate speech about data.
I love it. Thank you. What I do want to ask, what kind of data do lenders have access to now that they didn't have before?
They pretty much started from zero. So no, that's actually a little bit of a misstatement. The big lenders out there, like they're large enough, they're originating enough that they can find a lot of that information in-house. Because like some of those big banks out there, they've got the statistical pull to be able to go in and analyze what they're actually generating. But for your smaller lender, smaller and mid-size lender, like it was just a mystery. We heard, when I came into this industry, everybody was like, the standard is 10 and 2. And I'm like, well, first of all, what's that? Because I didn't come from private lending and I had no idea what that was. But secondly, it wasn't. And it had already started changing. And everybody that was still having that conversation was probably 2 steps behind on where the industry actually was. And so you've got everything from local to regional interest rates to, I think some of it is like they're tracking data at the transaction level as it's reported to courthouses through deeds. And so they're actually able to say which lenders are originating the most actually, with their names on the actual paper, like which borrowers are loyal, which aren't loyal, all the way down to some of the big, really interesting data. Like we just got a report out of FERCASA that we're publishing in our next issue, which I probably shouldn't be sharing this now, but 25% of loans in our private loans, like actually identified private loans in our country, are originated by the top 10 lenders in the nation. So top 10 is 25%. And then your 75% is probably, maybe somewhere in the top 25, all the way down to those really small local lenders. So that's a big section of the industry. And that's new information. We didn't know how much it was before, or we only even had guesses as to what the total volume of the industry was. Now we know it's in the billions. Before it was like, oh, we think there's 8,000 lenders out there. And we think that, it's a couple, maybe $6 or $7 billion. And guess what? It's bigger. So even big information like that is there, all the way down to your granular interest rate data, borrower loyalty. It's out there, but like you gotta access it and then figure out how to use it.
Yep. A lot of lenders are used to more traditional decision making. So we kind of address some of the biggest hurdles with embracing data-driven strategies. And again, you heard it here first that AAPL is going to be rolling out some resources to help navigate the shift into data-driven strategies. What is that education and what are those resources? What are they going to look like? Can you tell us? Or if there's any education available now?
I don't think that we have anything today necessarily. We have things slotted. I don't know that there's anything we want to share yet.
Not quite.
We have so many different ideas and things on the kind of cooking and the burners. And it's not anything I think that we're ready to share, that I'm ready to share with anyone yet. It'll be coming if we can get things. As I said, I have so many ideas. We have so many things. I have a list of initiatives. So hopefully we can share those in the next couple months. We can get some things going, some things out. Every year we at least try to launch a couple of initiatives and some of the things that we have on our list. So we'll try to get some things out there to help, but we'll use our partners to help with that. So,
okay.
And a lot of what we do will probably be through our established channels.
Yep.
So webinars, our magazine, our conference sessions, things like that. So we don't want to make our members find like a new thing that they have to log into or access. So whatever we do, it's going to be through the accessible measures we already have.
Okay. Well, I'm okay with you keeping that secret because you've shared a few with us today. So thank you. And are there any final thoughts, messages, updates you'd like to share before we conclude today's conversation?
I think the biggest thing is pay attention to what we send. I know everybody's busy, they're running their businesses, but try to read our newsletter. It's every 2 weeks. Try to pay attention to what we're saying on social. We put these things out there. to help the industry. It's funny because I'll go to conferences and they'll say, well, we're looking for this, this, and this. And I'm like, well, we actually are doing those things. And I've actually stood up in front of a whole room of people and said that before.
And I've sent you 3 emails this month about that.
Yeah, I actually said that they don't read and they don't pay attention to us, which is true most of the time. But it's really pay attention to what we're sending. We are not sending things just to send it to get in your inbox. We're really trying to provide really good content that really matters for what you're doing and to help your business. So we're trying to help you in what you're doing every day, not just trying to fill up your inbox with junk. So try to pay attention when you have a chance. Read it when you have time, just a few extra minutes. We try to make it digestible in all different ways because we know that people take in content in 14 different avenues. So everybody does things differently. So we try to make sure that it's available in all different ways for people. So
that's a great point. Thank you for sharing that. Don't just send it just to send it. So
exactly.
Just read it. Well, thank you both again for sharing your time and insights. It's been an enjoyable and valuable discussion. It was a pleasure to speak with both of you and learn more about the organization, its vision, and allowing me and our listeners to get to know you two a bit better as two leaders behind that vision. So thank you for being a part of Constructive Conversations.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
For over 20 years, LiquidLogix has been revolutionizing loan management with their cloud-based loan origination software. Built specifically for private and hard money lenders, their Nova platform streamlines the entire lending process, from origination to servicing, ensuring efficiency, transparency, and a seamless borrower experience. With cutting-edge technology and customizable solutions, LiquidLogix helps lenders stay ahead in a competitive market. If you want to see how they can transform your lending operations, visit liquidlogix.com to learn more.